Maxine,
Hi Sam,
how are you doing?
I'm well, and yourself?
I'm well, thank you. And I'm going to have our first question like as an icebreaker. What is your superpower?
Well, if I had a superpower, it definitely would be communicating with my cats and understanding them.
Wow.
That'd be a great superpower. I'd love that superpower.
Wow, sure. That's so cool. And when did you join Flying for Life?
Well, I've been working with MAF for 16 years in South Africa, and I was part of the journey of starting Flying for Life through MAF. So that was in 2010, I think it was.
Sure. In 2010. And do you remember when you finally started to go to communities and your first outreach? Do you have an idea of when your first outreach was?
I actually can't remember because I've been on a lot of the flights, and I was actually project manager at one stage.
Yeah.
So there's been many, but I think one of the significant ones was we went in a small aeroplane and we flew there with somebody else. I can't remember who it was. And we went we just drove around the Vembe district of Limpopo, and we went to a random clinic in Menenje village, and we started talking to one of the nurses there. And she was telling us how she had been on CHOP training, cancer awareness for children, how she had been on that training. We had enabled CHOP to go to the Vembe district of Limpopo, and she was saying how she found that training so invaluable, and she had found a young girl, I think the girl was like 11 years old, and she had something growing on her eye. And so because we'd also been doing work with our eye doctors, we were like, well, maybe the eye doctors can if she can take pictures of it, our eye doctors can have a look to see if it's cancerous or if it's what is it. And so we were able to connect her and the child to our eye doctors, and that was actually our first surgery, the eye doctor's first surgery that they ever did.
Sure.
Was to remove a granuloma from her eye. So it wasn't cancerous, thank goodness, but there was a growth that would have impaired her eyesight if they had left it. So they removed the granuloma, and that was the start to our eye project, which was really, it was amazing. I think it was amazing to see how the work that we had been doing, how it was kind of going to the very rural communities and getting to the clinics, and people were being impacted.
Sure.
So that was, I think, one of my first outreaches and connections to seeing how impactful the work of Flying for Life could be.
Sure. And acceptance from the community, like how did people like react to your services when you started, and react to that first surgery, maybe when it was like happening?
I think that the clinics and the communities were very welcoming to us, because there is a need for specialists in these clinics. A lot of these clinics are run by nurses and sisters that aren't doctors or specialists. So I think when we were bringing people in, they were very excited, and they still are today, like very excited about having us come in and to help the community. So I think they know that we're there to help. We're not there to gain anything, but to give and offer a service to those that are rural and that are isolated.
Sure. And now 10 years later, we have moved from that one surgery. We have done more than 1,000 surgeries in these different hospitals. We are now in the Northern Cape, and soon expanding also to KZN. So my question is, did you see Flying for Life growing to what it is today, where we are now reaching more clinics, doing more surgeries, having education programs, like how it has just grown, you know?
I suppose when you're in it in the beginning, you don't know the extent that it can grow to. So I am amazed, and I'm also so thankful to the volunteers that have enabled us to expand.
Yeah.
Without those eye doctors, without the dentists, without the nurses and the educational people that come with us, we wouldn't be able to do our work. So I think for me, it really is because of them that we're able to actually expand. And it's amazing to know that we've done over 1,000 surgeries, and that we're helping people to get their eyesight restored. And I do believe that Flying for Life can be bigger than what it is, because there is a need in rural communities for such a service. So yes, it's grown, but I know that it can be bigger than what it is even now.
To someone who does not understand actually how rural the areas that we are working in, maybe you can just give a little background. We are considered to be well established, so maybe people do not understand that how our rural communities and health facilities look like.
Yeah. Well, I suppose if you're not going out to these areas, you're not going to know. If you live in Joburg, if you live in Cape Town, if you live in Durban, the road infrastructure is pretty good. Yes, there are potholes, but the road there are roads, that connect us. There are taxis, there are Uber drivers, there are ways of getting around. And then when you go into a community, there's a clinic. There's just a clinic, and that clinic doesn't have doctors, it doesn't have specialists, it doesn't have dentists. Like, you have to drive, or you have to travel quite a distance to get to the dentist or to get to a specialist. And so for me, that makes it rural. I even going with some volunteers to the area that have never been to the area, that have grown up in Joburg and Soweto and stuff. They were like, but how do people live? How do people live? Like, what malls do they go to? What shops do they go to? And I'm like, they don't have that access. So it just shows how rural it is. And if I was just dumped in the area, I don't know how I would get around. I would feel lost. I couldn't call an Uber. I wouldn't know what to do. So, but it's amazing how the communities function, and they function well, and there's communication, but they do it. It's there. They just know how to do it, and it works. But they still lack some of the basics that we have here every single day.
10 years here. So now, looking forward, where do you see Flying for Life?
So I definitely see us expanding to other communities, like you said, the Northern Cape, but to do more in the Northern Cape and Northern KZN, to have a footprint there, and also the Eastern Cape. I think what's very important for us as Flying for Life is that we work closely with the Department of Health, the Department of Education, so that there is a sustainability, because we can't do it on our own, and we can't. It needs to be something that happens in the communities. There needs to be growth within the communities too, and that takes government involvement. So we can do so much, but I think our role is also here to be an influence to government bodies and to people in authority, and also to the community. So if we can play our part by delivering a service and by meeting a need, but then also being a bigger influence for greater development.
How can people get involved in Flying for Life? You've spoken about sustainability, and I think it has been amazing also that in the past 10 years we've had partners that have enabled us to go, because they've volunteered their skills in these rural areas. So how can people get involved in Flying for Life? How can they support the vision?
Well, I think first and foremost, I would say, is volunteers. We need more volunteers, be it doctors, be it specialists, even pediatricians, radiologists, just general GPs, dentists, educational people that can go into the schools and educate and bring awareness in some way or form. So any kind of volunteer, even volunteers within our office to help with like admin side of things, like interns, stuff like that. We need that. As a non-profit, we do need help in the form of resources and human resources. But then funding is a big thing. We get funding for these projects that are generally restricted, and it goes to the project, so the Eye Doctor project or the general outreach projects, but then we also need to cover our overheads and the things that we do in here, the newsletters that people receive, and we need that unrestricted funding so that we continue to function and continue to work and do the work that we believe is impactful and has purpose. And there are people in rural communities that need assistance, and we want to be that that bridge that connects them to people that have the skills, and we can bridge that gap, I suppose. Okay. So yeah, funding, volunteers, and I think that's
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. And my last question would be, what would you like to say to our volunteers, partners, donors, people that have been supporting our vision already for this past 10 years as your closing shot?
I just want to say thank you for, as I said before, if it wasn't for our volunteers, we wouldn't be able to do the work that we've been doing, and we wouldn't be able to continue the work we're doing. We wouldn't be able to expand. So I say thank you to the volunteers, thank you for our donors that believe in the work we're doing, and thank you for those of you that have volunteered, even just coming into the office or being part of an awareness project or campaign. Thank you so much for your involvement, and thank you for those that are going to get involved in some way or form. We're looking forward and we're excited to the years ahead, the next 10 years.
Hey, thank you, Maxine.
Thank you, Sam.